Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Zongwu. Sign in for 5 years, I am invincible. Traversing into the world of comprehensive martial arts, Zhu Houzhao awakens the system. In the first year, Li Chungang signed into the spring and autumn sword armor, one person with one sword, enough to conquer a country. In the second year, he signed in with the trap power gift package and secretly spread it all over the world. In the third year, I signed in as the spring and autumn demon cat. In the fourth year, Chen Zhibao, a white-clothed soldier immortal, was signed in, along with 5,000 heavy snow dragon cavalry. In the fifth year, although possessing strong and powerful forces. But the system informed Zhu Houzhao that his strength cannot be exposed within 5 years. Therefore, within 5 years, Zhu Houzhao only laid out the world step by step. And 5 years later, he ascended to the throne as king. Zhu Houzhao said, "You are all ***, I won't pretend anymore. I have a showdown, I am invincible." Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. I am invincible, the King of Men governs the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kyushu. The Forbidden City of the Ming Dynasty. The palace is adorned with colorful decorations and even the Forbidden City is filled with fireworks and lights. Only because. Today is the day of Emperor Zhu Houzhao's accession to the throne. When night fell, the 18-year-old Emperor Zhu Houzhao was alone in the Qianqing Palace. Zhu Houzhao slowly gazed into the distance, and he could see everything about Daming. You can also see everything beyond the Ming dynasty. After today, Daming will be completely different. Zhu Houzhao is not a person from this world, but someone who has traveled through time. He has even traveled a full 5 years. During these 5 years, he did not deliberately show his head or rectify the Ming dynasty. But instead, he wholeheartedly played the role of crown prince and also assisted his father the emperor. Everything we do is today. The day Zhu Houzhao ascended the throne was also the time when the system was completely unblocked. When he first crossed over, the system issued a command asking him to hide his strength and sign for 5 years. Only after signing in for 5 years and ascending to the throne as queen can one fully expose their strength, otherwise the system will disappear. And within these 5 years, he has signed in for dozens of monthly and 4 annual visas. The monthly signing rewards are not mentioned much, but the annual signing rewards are extremely exaggerated. For example, in the first year, Zhu Houzhao received a reward. Li Chungang, the spring and autumn sword armor. Then came the second year. The trap power gift pack. Third year. Chen Zhibao, 5,000 heavy snow dragon cavalry. The fourth year. Spring and autumn big demon cat. Just the reward he signed this year gave Zhu Houzhao the ability to dominate the world, and these people were secretly arranged by him through his identity as crown prince. For example, Li Chungang is his palace swordsman, Ren Mao is the eunuch-in-chief, Chen Zhibao is the border general, and the traps and villains are spread all over the world. This is Zhu Houzhao's 5-year arrangement. An arrangement made to the best of one's ability under hidden circumstances. Also to welcome today. Ascend to the throne. Only in this way. Zhu Houzhao is the only one who can completely unlock the system and have the right to speak, rightfully controlling all power. Iron Gallbladder God Ho Zhu ignored, Zhuge Zhenghua, the 4 major captors, left Prime Minister Li Si, Right Prime Minister Pei Zhu, Minister of Personnel Yen Song, Minister of Rights Chang Sun Wuji. Zhu Houzhao pronounced out the names of the ministers in the court one by one. These people are all those who harbor evil intentions, and they are also the most powerful and restless people in the Ming dynasty. Zhu ignored himself without saying much. Zhuge Zheng, I also have my own thoughts. However, Li Si, Pei Zhu, Yen Song, and Chang Sun Wuji were arranged by other countries. This is also the difference in this world. On the mainland of Kyushu, there are not only the Ming dynasty, but also powerful dynasties such as the Han dynasty, the Song dynasty, the Mongol Yuan dynasty, the Sui dynasty, and the Tang dynasty, and there are also many small countries, such as Liao, Jin, Dali, Western Xia, Tubo, Xiongnu, etc. Even in the wilderness, there are various countries in the western regions, such as Yingzhou, Goryeo, etc. It can be said to be intricate and interwoven. The more crucial aspect of this world is still the world of high martial arts. There are also Wudong, Momin, Ihua Palace, Hulong Mountain Villa, Shaolin Temple, Power Gang, and Tianxia Hui Wait. Nowadays, although the Ming dynasty is one of the great imperial dynasties, it is also a powerful country in the world. Since the Emperor Ming fell seriously ill a few years ago, various countries have started to lay out plans for the Ming dynasty. Peiju, Lisi, and others were inserted at that time. Even there are people from Momin and Jingyan Zen Buddhism. Also arranged early. The called everything is that after the sudden death of Emperor Ming, Zhu Houzhao, the young emperor, ascended to the throne. They controlled the Ming dynasty as powerful officials. Cholera plagued the Ming world, and used this to divide the territory of the Ming dynasty. Unfortunately, they misread Zhu Houzhao. 5 years of attendance and 5 years of restraint have enabled Zhu Houzhao to possess sufficient imperial means and a powerful force to the extreme. Don't mention anything else. Just Chen Zhibao and those 5,000 snow dragon cavalry are enough to withstand all external threats. Moreover, there are also the spring and autumn demon cat and the sword armor Li Chungang. After today, the Ming dynasty will surely dominate the world. I will also completely unify the world. In Zhu Houzhao's eyes, there was a majestic and domineering expression. But even if he has invincible power, things will eventually come step by step. Zhu Ho looked at the system and said, "System. Brush." The panel belonging to Zhu Houzhao appeared instantly. Host. Zhu Houzhao, Realm. The pinnacle of the Great Master. Age. 18 years old, martial arts. Vajra immortal skill at full level, sword 23 great achievements, body of 10,000 poisons, Changchun skill. Forces. Li Chungang, Ren Mao, Chen Zhibao, 5,000 snow dragon cavalry, and Luo Wang. Items. 10 small pills, 7 large pills, and 3 10,000 poison pills. This is Zhu Houzhao's current panel. In 5 years, the rewards obtained from signing in can be considered magnificent. He is the pinnacle of the great master himself, but he has 2 heavenly and human level subordinates under his command, as well as the invincible eunuch Man Mao, who is below the heavenly and human levels. He also has 5,000 snow dragon cavalry and numerous great masters and great masters. Now, as long as the 5th check.In is completed, the system will also be completely unblocked. At that time, the speed at which Zhu Houzhao's power would increase would be even more exaggerated. Perform annual check.In. Moment countless objects from all over the world appeared before Zhu Houzhao's eyes. That's all the items that can be obtained by checking in. Congratulations to the host for achieving the Human King Zhen Shigong. Detected that the host has ascended to the throne and has been granted 5 annual visas. The system has been unblocked. The system has been unblocked successfully. The system of emperors in all heavens and realms. In an instant, a series of information emerged in Zhu Houzhao's mind. Human King Zhen Shigong. This is a martial art practiced by ancient human kings. This cultivation method does not require any cultivation, it only requires absorbing national fortune and can continuously become stronger. The system of emperors in all heavens and all realms is also related to national fortune. As long as the national transportation becomes stronger, check.In can be carried out. The check.In rewards obtained are also related to national transportation. For example, Zhu Houzhao's current national fortune is 3%. In the future, As long as the national transportation can increase by 5% each time, another check.In can be conducted. 3%. Zhu Houzhao frowned slightly when he saw this number. But I quickly figured it out. This is the national fortune, not simply referring to a country, but the total energy fortune of the Kyushu continent. Although Ming is now a strong country, there is constant internal strife, and external threats from various countries. This resulted in very little national luck for the Ming dynasty, only occupying 3% of the Kyushu region. And what Zhu Houzhao needs to do now is to enhance national fortune and revitalize the Ming dynasty. Only I am the great Ming in the world. Daming Yongchang. Zhu Houzhao made up his mind and said, now, let me first see how strong the human king's determination in the world is. Immediately, Zhu Houzhao began to operate the human king to control the world and devour the fortune of the Ming dynasty. The magnificent national fortune of the Ming dynasty converged towards him. In an instant, Zhu Houzhao's blood and energy surged all over his body, and his true energy spewed out, faintly transforming into the shape of a real dragon. The golden dragon-shaped true energy filled his whole body with tremendous power. Every move and gesture is filled with supreme majesty, the majesty of a true dragon. Overlooking heaven and earth, proud of all living beings. As if Zhu Houzhao had already transformed into a true dragon at this moment. Once the human king reaches the level of 9 dragons, he can return to unity. At that time, Zhu Houzhao is the king of man and the heavenly emperor. But just a real dragon, its form has reached the power of a land god. As long as it is released, it can transform into a golden dragon. More self-protective. It can be said that Zhu Houzhao's current strength is equivalent to a land god. Okay. Zhu Houzhao laughed heartily. Even with this skill, many things can be done freely. And with the continuous improvement of national fortune, he is afraid that in the future, he will be able to suppress the world alone. But that's all for the future. What we need to do now is to enhance the national fortune of the Ming dynasty. Chapter 2. Spring and Autumn Demon Head, Human Cat. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Enhance the national fortune of the Ming dynasty. How to improve? It's easy to achieve this. It's nothing more than suppressing the inside and sweeping the world. But currently, what Zhu Houzhao needs to do is first and foremost to do a good job internally. This point. He already has ideas in his heart. Leeway. This is the first step. Although the current temples are chaotic, there are even more traitors. But in order to gain power, it is not necessary to deliberately take action against someone. Because the Ming dynasty was established with great righteousness, and he ascended to the throne in order, righteousness was in his hands, and power was placed there. All he needs to do is retrieve it. Tell the world again that I have the qualification to be an emperor. Whoever refuses will die. Expressing one's attitude naturally leads to gaining power. As for those spies or treacherous officials, these are not meant to be killed. Perhaps other emperors would immediately suppress and execute all the treacherous officials, with no trace of sand in their eyes. But Zhu Houzhao, who had been emperor for 5 years and had a huge influence, did not think that indiscriminate killing was a good thing. One of them. There are too many demons and monsters in the world, and too many treacherous officials. Killing a Zhu ignore, there will be others, even loyal ministers, who will gradually become traitors in the future. Do we still need to kill them one by one? Who will help him govern the world after killing him? The second one. You can't just look at the bad in everything. And ignored the benefits. Many of these courtiers appear to be treacherous and even engage in corruption and bribery. But these cannot deny its outstanding abilities and contributions. Such a person needs to be beaten. Let them know all. Understand who your power comes from. Understand your positioning. Otherwise, if we only let a group of loyal ministers with little talent stay, that's the real disaster. It's much more in the eyes of a cunning sycophant. I can't do anything. Do not act. Nature is even worse. Speaking of Zhu Houzhao. As an emperor, not all must be loyal to the court. That's not practical, nor is it possible. What he needs is balance, to be able to use people, to use good people, and at the same time, to grasp the overall situation. Loyalty is useful, and not so useful. Good people have the usage of good people, and bad people have the usage of bad people. Loyal ministers have their own usage, while treacherous ministers have their own usage. Everyone has ambition, it's inevitable. People are not plants and trees. Ambition grows with one's own strength, including eunuchs and loyal ministers. As long as he is strong himself, as long as he can use it. Even if Zhu ignores it, he can only be a loyal iron gallbladder god Marquis for a lifetime. Li Si and Pei Zhu can only be loyal and steadfast. Even if you pretend to be loyal, you have to pretend to be loyal to me for a lifetime. Even if it's not a loyal minister, being able to pretend for a lifetime is enough. Unless they want to die. But will anyone want to die? No way. Even if Zhu ignores it, he won't. The more greedy a person is, the more afraid they are of death. While maintaining internal stability, also controlling power. Instead of internal losses. Use a long time to lick the wound. This is the quality that a qualified emperor should possess. Thinking of this, Zhu Houzhao immediately ordered the eunuch to summon humans and cats. From time to time, Ren Mao walked slowly in and bowed to Zhu Houzhao, saying, "Ren Mao, see your majesty. Get up." Zhu Houzhao nodded slowly, with an expression on his face, and spoke lightly. "Your majesty, thank you." After the cat stood up, it dared not look up and said to Zhu Houzhao, "Your majesty, I don't know. Summoning my subordinate, what important matters do you have to command? I plan to rectify the inner court and I need your assistance. But I don't want to kill all these people, do you understand?" Zhu Houzhao's eyes were deep, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth as he looked at the cat and said. He doesn't have the intention of fully exposing the matter. Believe that humans and cats can understand his meaning. Simply put, it means elevating the status of humans and cats. Raise it to a high position. By the means and strength of humans and cats. He is still loyal to the emperor and dare not even harbor any dissent. This move will inevitably make all officials who pay attention to this matter, whether it is the inner court or the outer court, inexplicably afraid. This is knocking. At the same time, it is also giving these people a chance. The more you understand people, the easier it is to think more. This is the effect that Zhu Houzhao wants. This. Upon hearing these words, the cat's tone suddenly froze. After a slight thought, he instantly understood Zhu Houzhao's thoughts. I have been wandering in the palace for decades, and I have never seen anything like humans or cats. With just a slight reminder, Zhu Houzhao already understood what to do. This is to set oneself as an example to determine the emperor's power. This is a proper fishing law enforcement. As long as there are ideas. Who dares to ignore it? In such a situation, one dares to jump out. That means we're not far from death. And this is just the first step. After understanding the emperor's thoughts, even humans and cats can't help but admire Zhu Houzhao's brilliance at this moment. Immediately, the cat nodded heavily and kowtowed, "Your Majesty, just give orders. I will definitely cooperate with you to the best of my ability." This kind of thing. There is no need for the emperor to remind too much. As a smart subordinate, one should understand it well. Only in this way can one be a qualified subordinate. Okay, from today on, you will be responsible for leading all eunuchs and overseeing all affairs of the inner court. You only need to report to me when you encounter any problems. Go. Upon hearing these words, Zhu Houzhao's expression remained unchanged, but he nodded incessantly in his heart. What he wants is such a subordinate. Can understand the language. Can do things. And not a foolish person who just takes money for nothing. Yes, Your Majesty. After bowing respectfully again, the cat slowly left the main hall. Outside the main hall, the cat slowly walked out. In an instant, the whole person's temperament changed, with a pair of eyes resembling the grim reaper of hell, looking faintly towards the direction of the harem. A chill appeared in the air at some point. The mixture of murderous, resentful, and lifeless energy transforms humans and cats into a god of killing. Cold killing in tense surrounds, and red threads appear one by one. 3,000 red threads. He is not a kind person. The situation and methods are extremely cruel and bloody, making people's spine feel cold. The title of Big Demon is naturally not earned by charging phone bills, but entirely earned through one's own military force and means. His cultivation level has reached the level of invincibility, and he is known as the first person under the land god. Such a reputation was earned through repeated battles. The respect in front of Zhu Houzhao is only limited to this person. By cooperating with His Majesty this time, there is no need to hide your strength. Chapter 3. Let Zhu ignore and roll over. I asked him to. You are listening at novel full.audio. The cat was ordered to leave. At this moment, in the main hall. Whoosh! At this moment, a black shadow flashed past and appeared in the main hall. She was dressed in dark armor and wore a Rakshasa mask on her head. Even so, it cannot conceal its snow-white skin and graceful figure. Kneeling down on one knee to Zhu Houzhao, his tone was respectful, and he made a deep voice in his mouth. Your Majesty, I have found the latest intelligence. For His Majesty's accession to the throne, each major imperial dynasty has sent their own envoys, who will arrive in the capital in 3 days. They will pay tribute to famous beauties from their respective countries as congratulations, in other words, to befriend the Ming dynasty. After multiple investigations, I have found that the identities of these women are not simple. All the intelligence has been sorted out, please have a look, Your Majesty. Speaking, the startled salamander presented an intelligence report to Zhu Houzhao. The startled salamander belongs to the assassination organization directly under the jurisdiction of Zhu Houzhao. Trap. Although there was the great Qin dynasty in this world, distortion still occurred due to the differences in the world. In fact, there was no trap in the great Qin dynasty, only 100 schools of thought. And the Dark Guards controlled by Yingzheng are also the Black Ice Platform and Shadow Guard. The differences in the world can cause some characters to change and remain absolute. And the trap was exactly what Zhu Houzhao won in a lottery, with 100% loyalty and never fading. You can absolutely rest assured. This assassination organization is like a trap that covers the entire world. Countless death row inmates, bandits, and wandering swordsmen were cruelly trained among them. Each one is a cold-blooded and ruthless killer. They were like Zhu Houzhao's arms and eyes, like a pair of eyes, observing everything that happened in the entire Ming dynasty. As long as Zhu Houzhao gives a command, it can set off towering waves. Even if Zhu Houzhao asks them to die. No one frowns either. The level of the trap is strict. The startled salamander can rank first in the sky. Her appearance is stunning, her martial arts are highly skilled, and she is one of the assassins with a high success rate in the early stages of the trap assassination. In the net, there are no friends. Everything, only follow Zhu Houzhao's instructions. As long as there is any threat to Zhu Houzhao's existence, any unfavorable information about Daming will be transmitted to his hands as soon as possible. Upon hearing these words, Zhu Houzhao frowned slightly. Holding the intelligence in his hand, he couldn't help but sneer repeatedly. I don't know if I don't see it. Take a look. Every name surprised Zhu Houzhao. De Qin has sent Yan Fei. Wu Zhao sent by the Tang dynasty. Zhao Min sent by Deyuan, it was sent by the Great Sui dynasty. Huang Rong sent by the Song dynasty. Dali has sent Wang Yuyan. Sending beautiful women. Congratulations. Still making friends. Just as I ascended the throne, these major dynasties bide to send such beautiful women first. It's already blatantly not treating oneself as an emperor anymore. Be aware. People have luck, and countries also have luck. Everything has its own destiny. In this world of martial arts. As the emperor, the expectation of gathering tens of thousands of people naturally dominates this fortune. And the theory of Qi luck is that for ordinary people, although it cannot be seen or touched. But Zhu Houzhao understood that Qi luck was not illusory, and his system needed Qi enhancement. This shows how important Qi luck is. Although Qi is invisible, it actually exists. But once a person's luck is depleted, they will die. Once the luck of a country deteriorates, it will perish. Youth ascends the throne, young and reckless. How can one control a stunning beauty? I'm afraid it's not just a few dozen shots a day. What if it really doesn't work? Eat the golden pill. Eat Wushi San. These are all the favorites of aristocrats and even emperors. In the long run, the body will inevitably suffer losses and become even more unbearable. This color is like a sharp blade. How can the emperor live a long life? If it can affect the emperor, it can directly ruin the fortune of the Ming dynasty. If the emperor still insists on following the plan, it will basically be scrapped. The court of the Ming dynasty will be hit the hardest. Since ancient times. There are many emperors in history who love beauty but do not love rivers and mountains. Zhu Houzhao knows it all too well. This kind of thing has happened before. It may seem like a beauty's plan is clumsy, but in reality, her tricks are not afraid of aging. A proper yang strategy utilizes the hope of human nature. These major dynasties are really good at calculating. However, even so, Zhu Houzhao is not ready to refuse either. Since it has been delivered, he will accept everything according to the order. On the one hand, it is because the current Ming dynasty is too weak compared to his imperial dynasty. Internally, there are also many problems. Now, Ming is still safe and sound. On the one hand, the foundation still exists. On the other hand, it is also due to the mutual checks and balances between several imperial dynasties. Once rejected, it will actually unite them. It is precisely because of mutual fear that led these dynasties to use this tactic. Every dynasty is not confident that it can eliminate the Ming dynasty and avoid heavy damage. No dynasty is a fool. They all want to occupy more victory fruits behind the destruction of Ming. Tribute to beautiful women. It's just a little bit of ruining the fortune of the Ming dynasty, and then slowly trying to do so. If you intervene now, how much more can you get a share of the future? And these women, Zhu Houzhao, are too familiar. As a traveler, these stunning women in front of me are in the plot. Each one is famous and has their own strategies. Present an identity on the surface. There is even another identity behind the scenes. The beauty scheme can be said to be ruthless. Of course. These are just talking about the harm. Taking advantage of his understanding of the plot, Zhu Houzhao can make use of it. After all, although these are troublesome, what's even more troublesome is the various countries and the tricky world. That's the real big trouble. It is also his most important target for cleaning up in the future. Zhu Houzhao, who has been the crown prince for so many years, has never only focused on his own country, but has always been closely monitored outside of other countries. Your Majesty, there is actually one more thing. Luo Wang is conducting an in-depth investigation and has basically produced results. At this moment, the startled salamander hesitated to speak. Trap. All intelligence will only be handed over to Zhu Houzhao after repeated verification. But this matter is of great significance. After a thorough investigation, she still intends to bring it up. To prevent major events from being delayed due to the investigation time. Speak up. Zhu Houzhao nodded slightly, frowning and saying. He never doubted the efficiency of the trap. Since I dare to propose it, I have basically hammered it out. I have also found that there have been very close correspondence between the Pingnan Prince's mansion and the Ning Prince's mansion recently, and I have intercepted dozens of letters from the Ning Prince's mansion. As stated in the letter, the Prince of Pingnan actually conspired with the Lord of Baiyun City, Yi Gucheng, to have a decisive battle with Shimen Chuexue in Your Majesty's palace. Intended to assassinate Your Majesty on the night of a full moon, and replace Your Majesty with one of my own sons, to achieve a mix of fish and eyes. I have also found out that the son of Prince Pingnan is almost identical to His Majesty Zhang's. I suspect that Prince Pingnan has been plotting against the court for quite some time now. With these words, Zhu Houzhao's eyes flickered with cold light, and the temperature of the entire hall dropped significantly. For a long time, Zhu Houzhao spoke coldly and said, "All right. Everyone wants to seize the throne, and they truly deserve to be the Zhu family. Can you bully me when I'm young?" At this point, Zhu Houzhao laughed back angrily and said to the startled salamander, "Pass on my decree to closely monitor the movements of Yi Gucheng and Shimen Chuexue. Now, immediately pass on to me that the iron gallbladder god Ho Zhu ignores it. What exactly is this dragon protection villa for? The feudal lords are about to rebel, but there is not a single intelligence report submitted." "Yes, Your Majesty." The startled salamander immediately nodded. After receiving the imperial decree, it transformed into a remnant and disappeared, as if it had never appeared before. After the startled salamander left, Zhu Houzhao's eyes became even more profound. This time, he plans to completely establish his authority. Whether it's the women sent by major dynasties, or the power of major dynasties or small countries. Or perhaps these treacherous officials within the Ming dynasty, including the rebellious Prince of Pingnan and Prince of Ning. Who dares to cause trouble in Daming? Who wants to rebel? He'll kill anyone. Absolute strength. Bringing absolute confidence. Stop pretending. I have a showdown. Now he has the qualifications and confidence. Under the 3,000 red threads of Chapter 4, Zhao Gao was horrified. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Just when Zhu Houzhao ordered Zhu to ignore. Ren Mao has also started his first step, he directly approached Zhao Gao. Zhao Gao's mansion. In the main hall, fist-sized night pearls are embedded on the walls, and under the soft light, the dim space shines like daylight. At this moment, as one of the eunuch governors, Zhao Gao sat on a throne made of golden nanmu, playing with a dark green trigger in his hand, with his attendants sitting on either side. Perhaps it is a change in the world of martial arts. These people can be said to be old acquaintances in Zhu Houzhao's cognition. Such as Wei Zhuang, Zhang Liang, Yan Lingji, and others. They all belong to an organization called Flowing Sands. These people were all invited by Zhao Gaohua with a lot of money. The Quicksand organization only recognizes money when doing things. Whoever gives more money, help them with their work. Coincidentally, Zhao Gao is very wealthy. After all, he has the support of the Qin state, so there is no need to worry about financial issues. Through this, these people were also gathered around to do things. Today, Zhao Gao gathered these people together, and it was just the news that came from the side of Daqin. The Yan consort of the Yin-Yang family will soon arrive in the capital of the Ming dynasty and settle in the imperial harem. Ing Zheng's command was simple, which was to have Zhao Gao fully assist Yan Fei's actions in the palace and provide tremendous support. Nevertheless, Zhao Gao still has his own careful thinking. As a eunuch who had infiltrated the Ming court in the early days, he has now risen to the position of eunuch-in-chief. Over time, he cherished his position even more. He understood that he must climb up step by step in order to grasp his current power. Therefore, with the abundant support provided by the Qin state, he continuously recruited his followers and crazily expanded his influence. The Quicksand organization is one of them, and it is also a tool he used to suppress Chao Jingchun. As long as we can suppress Chao Jingchun and even bring him down, he could manage to occupy the East Factory and become a prominent eunuch in the Ming dynasty, having a position below one person and above 10,000 people. Even, he intended to lead the harem and hold the inner court of the Ming dynasty in his hands. Take control of Emperor Zhu Houzhao. At that time, even if he is just a eunuch, he will also be the most powerful eunuch in this world. Thinking of this, Zhao Gao smiled and looked at the Quicksand crowd, saying, "Everyone, money has never been a problem. Soon, Consort Yen will arrive, and the king's command is very simple. To assist Consort Yen in taking the inner court. Our first step is to overthrow Chao Jingchun. As long as we overthrow him, our power in the palace will further expand." After speaking, he turned his gaze to the crowd, wanting to hear their thoughts. These people are just asking for money. This is actually easier to handle. The state of Qin provided him with great support because Empress Yen also sent a large amount of silver in advance. Because of this, his ambition began to rapidly expand. The manager's words are absolutely accurate, and we will do our best to assist. Wei Zhuang's expression remained calm and he nodded. He didn't mean to say much. How the Ming is, it has nothing to do with their essence. The Quicksand organization is using money to do things. Give money, then everything is easy to say. When he spoke, others also responded one after another. Only Yan Lingji frowned slightly, pondered for a moment, and said coldly, "Director Zhao, although we can help, the power of the inner court is complex now. Apart from the East Factory Governor Chao Jingchun, there is also a cat who is skilled and ruthless in his methods. In just 3 years, he has already established a foothold in the inner court with full wings. After the little emperor ascended the throne, the human cat was even promoted to 2 poles, and his influence in the inner court became increasingly powerful. This person was also very difficult to deal with. Humans and cats. Their methods are ruthless. Just rely on him." Upon hearing this, Zhao Gao couldn't help but sneer, his eyes full of malice and malice. He said, "This person has a lot of influence." The manager asked him to grow up to balance Chao Jingchun. "If he dares to stop me today, he will die." With the support of Yingzheng, Zhao Gao can be said to be indifferent to anyone. What kind of cat? He completely disregards it. You should know that none of these people who are now mixed up in the Ming dynasty have any background or influence behind them. What do humans and cats have? To get out of here, one must have power. Otherwise, it's a rootless duckweed. Human cat, he has also investigated. To put it simply, he is a scattered person who has just risen. What can he do? If it bothers him, he can even put Chao Jingchun's side aside for a while and first eliminate the human cat. Behind oneself lies the state of Qin, which ranks among the top in terms of strength among many imperial dynasties. Now, with the key support from Yingzheng, he is even more reckless in his heart. If the manager has a plan in mind, that's good. Yan Lingji listened to Zhao Gao's arrogant words and felt inexplicably unhappy, but she had said everything she needed to say. Whether she listened or not was Zhao Gao's own business. She instinctively felt that this matter was not simple, but there was no evidence either. "Ha, you don't have to worry too much. If it's done now, I promise you that your money will only be more and not less, and you won't regret today's choice." Zhao Gao was very satisfied in his heart and couldn't help but burst out laughing. Just a big Ming. To be honest, he really didn't take it seriously. Even the little emperor in the heart-nourishing hall never cared. Sooner or later, this will become his own puppet. The thought of being able to control a monarch made Zhao Gao tremble with excitement. As long as you control Zhu Houzhao, doesn't it mean you control Ming? Seize the emperor to command the lords. This kind of thing, I will be the first person. That is the true peak of power. This wish can be said to be the dream of every eunuch. Zhao Gao in the great Qin dynasty cannot achieve it. After all, Ing Zheng's talent and strategy are beyond the control of a small eunuch. But Ming is different. This shows him an opportunity. And the probability is very high. Thank you very much, the manager. We will definitely do our best. At this moment, everyone shouted in unison. This time, it made Zhao Gaoshuang even more, as if he was about to float up. Is this the taste of power? And at this moment, no one noticed. Behind the screen of the main hall, red threads appeared in the room. Immediately afterwards, the air inside the main hall became solidified. Before he could react, a wave of icy killing intent suddenly surged forward. All the eunuchs standing on either side of the screen did not even scream, but instantly turned into a pile of minced meat. 3,000 red threads. This is the most terrifying means for humans and cats, which can make dead creatures full of spirituality and also make living creatures disappear instantly. Can slaughter all experts under the realm of land immortals. Even if these people have extraordinary strength, they are all experts in the realm of a master, and they cannot react at all. Who exactly is it? Zhao Gao's face changed greatly, and he instinctively looked behind the screen, his voice filled with fear. Who? But we haven't received a response yet. Zhao Gao saw a person walking towards him. He exuded an incredibly strange aura from his body. Bloody, brutal, cruel, merciless under the reflection of various negative emotions in the village make that person's figure look like a devil coming from hell, with a pair of eyes full of murderous and lifeless energy, looking towards everyone in the hall. Cold. Extremely cold. Everyone seemed to be in an ice cellar, their faces changing greatly. That terrifying aura. It's simply shocking. Especially, on his left hand, he even looked up at a head. That's a head that never closes its eyes in death. That's Chao Jingchuan's head. Chapter 5 Human Cat. Your Majesty's strength is unfathomable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Human Cat. It's him. Surprisingly, it was him speak of the devil. With one move, he killed dozens of eunuchs at the level of masters. While shocking everyone present, it was also chilling with fear. Master Gao Shu is not a big cabbage. In the world of rivers and lakes, every one is a breath of wind and rain. Surprisingly, he was instantly killed by a human cat. Hush. Seeing this scene, everyone took a deep breath in their hearts. What kind of strength is this person? Grand Master. Or. You. It's you. Human cat. You killed Chao Jingchun. Zhao Gao sat on the throne of Golden Nanmu, his face stiff to the extreme, but he couldn't laugh anymore. He was just imagining a beautiful life in the future. But I didn't expect to be slapped hard by a cat the next second. What surprised him even more was that the strength of this person's cat was simply unfathomable. Killed more than 10 of his own great masters and eunuchs brought from the state of Qin without hesitation. His opponent Chao Jingchun, whom he regarded as a great enemy, was even beheaded and held in his hand. Is this an illusion not possible? But the bloody smell that rushed in was so clear and real. It's not an illusion. Especially the terrifying aura released by the other party made him feel as if he saw a sea of corpses and blood, his body trembling slightly. Human cat. Wei Zhuang's eyes were deep, and his heart was filled with suspicion and uncertainty. This person is a strong enemy. The water in the inner court is indeed unfathomable. Subconsciously, he wants to avoid its sharpness. Almost everyone in the quicksand organization looked at each other, their eyes full of vigilance and unease. They love money, that's right. But it's not just about giving up on fate. The person in front of me is too fierce. Invincible. At this moment, the human cat was holding Qiao Jingquan's head in its hand. Approaching Zhao Gao step by step. The icy killing intent on his body was not concealed at all, and there were 3,000 red threads with a terrifying aura floating behind him. Every step forward, his momentum increases by 1 point. Every step forward, the evil energy on his body becomes stronger. This scene made Zhao Gao's face look particularly ugly, and he was already a bit panicked in his heart. The seemingly calm expression on his face could not conceal his inner fear. Human cat, so reckless, dare to act recklessly in the palace. Who the hell is he? Where is his confidence? Which faction does he belong to? Tang Dynasty? The Sui? The Yuan? Or other dynasties? Zhao Gao's thoughts began to flow rapidly. No matter how he thinks, he can't come up with a reason at all. The background of the human cat is too clean. It's so clean that it's just unbelievable. It's so clean that there's no problem at all. He thought he was an insignificant nobody. But I didn't expect it to be an iron plate. Fear. Anxious. Various emotions linger in my heart. Is it difficult or not? Suddenly, Zhao Gao's eyes suddenly tightened. Emperor. Are humans and cats the people of the little emperor? He suddenly remembered a handsome figure wearing a dragon robe. Zhu Houzhao. Is it his person? How could that be? Impossible. For this new emperor, his investigation is clearer and absolutely impossible. Zhu Houzhao has no power or influence at all. Apart from his identity as an emperor, he is simply nothing, and a human cat cannot be. As his mind turned, Zhao Gaoshan took a breath and his eyes were very dignified. He forced himself to calm down and said. You, what do you want? Ren Mao, I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm from Daqin. Behind me is Yingzheng, the king of Qin. Your strength is good. As long as you are willing to help me win the imperial court, you will not only have money, but also power. In the future, you and I can the final say. As an old hand in the court, Zhao Gao is very skilled in observing words and expressions. After discovering that the human cat did not directly attack him, it also gave him hope. No action, it means we can try to win over. As a eunuch. He understands better what eunuchs need. Money. Power. There is no eunuch who can refuse these 2 points. But Zhao Gao still thought too simply. If a human cat can be so easily captured by people, it is equipped with what is called a human cat. Moreover, the human cat is still a character obtained through the system by Zhu Houzhao. Loyalty is 100% and never fades. Zhu Houzhao only needs 1 sentence, even if he wants a cat to die, he will execute it without hesitation. Betrayal. It's like a fool talking about a dream. At this moment, the human cat did not speak. But instead, he casually threw the head of Qiao Jingquan in his hand at Zhao Gao's feet. You. Zhao Gao's eyes widened and he was startled by the action of the human cat. What is this guy doing? He thought that humans and cats were going to attack him, and his body couldn't resist retreating. Stupid. Ignorant. Do you really think you can dominate everything? Zhao Gao, do you really think Your Majesty is just that simple? Ren Mao couldn't help but sneer, his tone full of mockery, and said lightly, don't say it's you, it's my strength. What's the point of being in the emperor's shoes? As he spoke, he looked contemptuously at everyone and said, Your Majesty's strength is beyond your imagination. If Your Majesty wants to, even if it's me for the next second, I will be beheaded. As soon as this statement was made, not only Zhao Gao was stunned, but also the people from the Flowing Sands organization in the hall were somewhat uncertain. What? Does that new emperor have such strength? Lian Tongren cat, such terrifying strength can be easily destroyed. This statement actually came from this person's own mouth. Everyone was a bit confused, with faces full of disbelief. Your Majesty, is it really so terrifying? If that's the case, wouldn't all of their actions be noticed by this person? Why didn't you choose to take action? Is that so? Are you watching a group of jumping clowns? Zhao Gao already has some doubts about life. He glanced at the cat and tried to find evidence that the other person was lying. But it was discovered that the cat's face was full of disdain, and the originally skeptical thoughts were suddenly swept away. Yes. The strength of human cats is already so terrifying. Can be called the first person under the land god. Is it necessary for such a person to lie? Maybe it will. But even terrifying land immortals are not qualified to make such people lie. Is it necessary to deceive these people like myself? No need. Zhao Gao was extremely confident in his heart that it must be like this. But the more certain this is. Isn't it clear that Zhu Houzhao possesses extremely terrifying strength? This is the worst possible scenario. But now it seems to be true silence. Full of silence in the hall. Zhao Gao and the Flowing Sand organization, who were originally ambitious and wanted to unify the harem, remained silent. Seeing this, humans and cats watched coldly. He didn't mean to explain much, let alone deliberately act. Just a few simple words made Zhao Gao and others tremble with fear. I'm afraid I don't know how much brain has been replenished in this brain. This is exactly the effect that humans and cats want, and it is also Zhu Houzhao's goal. Strength is not something that can make people tremble. Sometimes, self-medicating can also be terrifying enough to leave a shadow. This is also an imperial technique. Accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger, and no one can guess the strength controlled by Zhu Houzhao, which is also the most terrifying place. Outside the palace. Just as Ren Mao was suppressing Zhao Gao, Zhu ignored the fact that he had already arrived outside the palace. Why did this great-nephew summon me at this time? Zhu ignored his eyebrows and frowned slightly, walking on the main road, his whole mind somewhat absent-minded. For Zhu Houzhao summoning himself this time, he was very puzzled and full of confusion. Originally, Zhu Houzhao ascended the throne and proclaimed himself emperor, but he never cared. After all, with his understanding of this great-nephew over the years, he saw it clearly. If it weren't for this guy having a good pregnancy, it can be said that he had no qualifications or demeanor as an emperor. He still vaguely remembers that when he was the crown prince, his favorite places to go were those Golan places. Either I'm playing poker with this young man today, or I'm applauding him for his love. Relying on his own crown prince status, coupled with his extraordinary beauty. Those pure servants who even perform but do not sell themselves are captivated by it, each eager to become a crown princess. Either find the young masters of the royal and general families, and either fight crickets or wander around when they have nothing to do. It can be said that he has thrown the face of the royal family into it. But this is the person who inherited the throne. This also made Zhu ignore his resentment in his heart, he was not convinced. Even for this, I have never proactively met His Majesty. Do you deserve to be an emperor like this? Is it compatible? It is obvious that Zhu ignored and looked down upon Zhu Houzhao, even thinking that only he was worthy of inheriting the throne. Since ancient times, it has been a common occurrence for younger brothers to inherit their brother's throne. But my own imperial brother did not have such consciousness. I would rather give the world of the Ming dynasty to a playboy than to him. Since you don't give it, I'll take it myself. It's better than letting Zhu Houzhao ruin the territory that the old Zhu family finally took. At the thought of this, Zhu ignored the wild gaze in his eyes. This guy suddenly summoned himself, just before the first super meeting. Can you say that my eldest nephew is asking for something? Interesting. Zhu ignored the corners of his mouth and showed a faint smile. It seems that this emperor is still not capable. Not reliable. Finally, don't you have to rely on yourself as the emperor uncle? That's good. With his current influence in the court, on the border, and in the martial arts world, he is fully capable of handling the affairs of the court well. Once Zhu Houzhao becomes dependent on himself, won't the opportunity come? The saying goes, good things come with many trials, and he is not in a hurry. As long as Zhu Houzhao is obedient. Even if he ultimately takes the throne, he won't kill this nephew. Just let him become an idle prince. Give him more beauties. It's okay, you go play poker. This way, you can also hiccup earlier. I don't have to fall under the pretext of killing my own family to seize the throne. At this moment, Zhu Houzhao's heart was filled with confidence. Walking on the main road, it's also like walking with a dragon and a tiger, as if I can't wait anymore. However, at this moment, a eunuch suddenly rushed over from a distance, with an extremely frightened expression on his face. Marquis, something big has happened. The eunuch's face turned pale. After looking left and right, he spoke hastily to Zhu, ignoring Zhu and saying, man-cat killed Chao Jingchun, he killed Chao Duzhu. What? Can you explain clearly? Who killed who? As soon as he said this, Zhu ignored his gaze and widened it by 3 points, as if he couldn't believe it. He couldn't help but ask again. This eunuch is a scout arranged by him in the palace. Generally, intelligence will be transmitted to Hulong Mountain Villa as soon as it is obtained. This time, he actually came to find himself in person. Chao Duzhu, he is dead and his head was cut off by a cat. Marquis. Even now, the eunuch's face is still full of disbelief, trembling all over with fear. Chao Jingchun, what kind of person is that? That is the general manager of the East Factory, with such great power that both the inner and outer dynasties have great influence. Such a person has died unexpectedly. If he hadn't truly seen it, he could hardly believe his eyes. Chao Jingchun is dead. Upon hearing these words, Zhu ignored and could no longer calm down, his face instantly turning gloomy like water. I didn't hear it wrong. Chao Jingchun is dead. I'm really dead. Still died in the hands of humans and cats. As a spy arranged by himself in the palace, he can have absolute trust. Unless it is accurate information, this eunuch absolutely dares not falsify. But it was precisely in this way that Zhu ignored the prolonged inability to calm down in his heart, calmed down for a long time, and finally calmed down. Human cat. This eunuch who has only been in the palace for less than 3 years. How did he do it when he killed Chao Jingchun? Even if Zhu ignores Chao Jingchun's strength, he dare not underestimate it. Even if he personally took action, he didn't do anything to kill Chao Jingchun. Throughout, Zhu disregarded and regarded Chao Jingchun as a great enemy. This person, who hinders his ability to gain influence in the palace, can be said to be a thorn in the flesh. When he heard the news that Chao Jingchun had been killed, he was really not happy at all, and his heart was only shocked. Unbreakable astonishment. There is an inexplicable feeling of rabbit death and fox sorrow. A human cat can kill Chao Jingchun, doesn't it mean that the other party can also kill themselves? Who? Thinking of this, Zhu ignored and couldn't help but take a cold breath. But what do humans and cats rely on? Not to mention the strength of a human cat, who gives a human cat the confidence to kill Chao Jingchun. Is it difficult? Is it my own big nephew who can't do it? Does he have this strength? He knows the background of Ming. As an imperial uncle, he understands that the foundation of the Ming dynasty is not entirely in the hands of the emperor. Mainly from the master. Emperor, the time of succession is so short, there's no reason to take it so quickly. You should know that when the royal family entrusts their heritage, they also test the emperor. If the incompetence is severe, the royal family can temporarily not hand over their power. Even if we take care of Zhu Houzhao, it would never be so fast. Zhu ignored this and felt very confident in his heart. It can also be considered an old rule of the royal family. So, if it's Zhu Houzhao, what does he rely on? At this moment, Zhu ignored the first feeling that Zhu Houzhao was out of his control, which made him very annoyed. Go ahead. Don't make this matter public. I have my own plans and will go see Your Majesty now. Zhu ignored his tone and said coldly. He also forced himself to calm down at this moment. No matter what happens, go and see this big nephew first. Even now, his heart remains rebellious. I don't think my big nephew has this ability. If a human cat really has such strong strength, how could it possibly succumb to its own useless nephew? Does he also deserve it? Yes, Marquis. The eunuch nodded, concealed his emotions, and turned around to leave. Humph, let me see if this big nephew really has this ability. Zhu ignored taking a deep breath, his eyes darkened like water, and he also quickened his pace towards the palace. Chapter 6. There is no need for the existence of Hulong Mountain Villa anymore. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Imperial Palace, Heart-Nurturing Hall. Zhu Houzhao was dressed in a 9-claw dragon robe, holding a crystal-clear and moist jade rui in his hand, slowly rubbing it. At this moment, a trusted eunuch walked in and bowed down, saying, Your Majesty, the Iron and Iron God Zhu ignored the request to see you. Let him in. Zhu Houzhao spoke lightly. Yes, Your Majesty. The eunuch walked out. Externally, Zhu Wuwu, who had received a widely circulated message, didn't know why. Stepping in front of the hall door, my mood suddenly became a bit uneasy. Humph, I have been wandering the rivers and lakes for many years, and have never seen any storms. A young and immature boy, why should I be afraid? Zhu ignored his thoughts and instead became more courageous. Immediately, he lowered his head and slowly stepped into the main hall. As a vassal, one should not look directly at the emperor. This is the rule. Unless the emperor asks you to lift your head, there is an intention to assassinate. At this moment, even if the experts in the industry rush forward, killing you is also a waste of money. As an imperial uncle, he always abides by the rules. It is precisely this low-key and profound personality, which has allowed him to live in the court until now. Step by step into the main hall, Zhu Wuwu bowed to Zhu Houzhao and said, I, Zhu Wuwu, pay my respects to Your Majesty. As a result, it took quite a while. But there was no response. Zhu ignored the moment and felt a bit confused. He was already very impatient in his heart, but due to the rules, he could only continue to speak. Zhu ignores, pay respects to Your Majesty. Get up. A cold voice sounded. Your Majesty, thank you. Zhu ignored a thump in his heart, and his mind began to become particularly vigilant. What is the situation? Does this nephew have a murderous heart towards him? Raise your head. Zhu Houzhao's tone remained indifferent. Yes, Your Majesty. Zhu ignored and frowned, slowly lifting his head. At the first glance he saw Zhu Houzhao, his eyes narrowed by 3 points. Suddenly, he realized that the impression of a playboy nephew in front of him had completely changed. I have become completely unfamiliar with myself. Give him the feeling that this is no longer the former crown prince Zhu Houzhao, but a true emperor. Although there was still a hint of childishness between his eyebrows, those eyes, incredibly sharp, and the domineering aura faintly projected, were even more penetrating in his heart. Invisible pressure followed one after another, causing Zhu to ignore and feel anxious. I haven't waited for him to say anything yet. Zhu Houzhao sneered and questioned, Zhu ignores what the Dragon Protection Villa is doing. This. Upon hearing this, Zhu ignored the shock on his face. This actually silenced him. He doesn't understand, what does Zhu Houzhao mean? Suddenly, he realized that he couldn't see through this nephew. My heart is filled with shock. When did this happen? Has Zhu Houzhao's city mansion become so deep? Look at it yourself. Zhu Houzhao responded coldly and directly picked up the intelligence from the imperial table, fiercely smashing it in front of Zhu ignorant. This is the intelligence from the trap, and he erased the encrypted part. Zhu ignored taking a deep breath and picked up the intelligence to read. As a result, the more you look at your face, the uglier it becomes, and the more you look at it, the more shocked it becomes in your heart. Events one by one. A pile of events. Time. Location. Participants. I wrote it clearly and thoroughly. Zhu ignored the immense vibration in his heart. Where did the emperor obtain these contents? As the owner of Hulong Mountain Villa, Zhu disregards self-questioning and is already well versed in collecting intelligence from all over the world, even from various countries. Ask yourself, he said first, no one dares to say second. But looking at this detailed intelligence, he became somewhat suspicious of life. These contents, even in Hulong Mountain Villa, are only vaguely noticeable. Currently under investigation, the progress is very slow. The level of detail cannot be compared to the one in front of Zhu Houzhao. This subverted his impression of Zhu Houzhao. With it comes a heart full of fear. Emperor. Surprisingly, I have such a clear understanding of the world's context that it feels terrifying. Is it difficult? Is it possible that one's own affairs have already been discovered? Once discovered, can we still walk out alive today? At this point, Zhu ignored the cold sweat on his forehead. Even though Zhu disregards being a hero and has a rebellious heart, he is clearly the Ming dynasty's calming sea god Needle and a loyal iron courage god Monkey. This is his character and the foundation for his future usurpation. Instead of now, everything may have already been seen through. Your Majesty, I deserve to die. I am incompetent. Zhu ignored the fear on his face and pleaded guilty. Death. In my opinion, it shouldn't be Uncle Huang who died, but those people from all over the Hulong Mountain Villa. Zhu Houzhao sneered and continued, this Hulong Mountain Villa spends so much money every year, and Uncle Huang has raised countless talented and extraordinary people. However, he hasn't even inquired about this intelligence. Is it only after I die that Hulong Mountain Villa will know? This statement is somewhat sarcastic. Although I didn't blame Zhu for ignoring him, I made him sweat profusely because it was more terrifying than asking him for help. Although Zhu Houzhao could not arbitrarily execute Zhu Wuwu, he was able to deal with Hulong Mountain Villa for this matter. And everyone knows the strength of the Dragon Protection Villa, but now even this intelligence cannot be found. Is that Hulong Mountain Villa incapable? Or does Zhu ignore concealment? If you don't have the ability, get lost. The only result is dissolution. If it's hidden, then there are some who say it. Where is the intention? This is a heinous crime. This is the subtext in Zhu Houzhao's tone. It is also the real reason why Zhu ignored the cold sweat. He is undoubtedly the uncle of the emperor and the pinnacle of the great master, but Zhu Houzhao is the emperor of the Ming dynasty, holding the great righteousness of the world in his hands. Even if Zhu ignores, he dare not take action against Zhu Houzhao. Unless he wants to rebel. But even if there is rebellion, it cannot be like this, otherwise Zhu ignoring it would be self-destruction. Those ministers in the court, like Zhuge Zhenghua and others, would not miss this opportunity. Once you make a move, it's like pressing to death. At that time, I'm afraid all kinds of hats will be buttoned on the head. At that time, Zhu ignored and completely became the one everyone shouted at. This is the importance of imperial orthodoxy. It is also because Zhu Houzhao does not need to hold power, and power has always been in his hands. He just needs to tell the world that I am qualified to take these powers and have the ability to reclaim any power. That's enough. At the same time, there is one thing that makes Zhu ignore and feel particularly uneasy. So, does Zhu Houzhao already know everything? If so, he has already thought about it further. That means Zhu Houzhao has grasped his own lifeline. Once crushed, He will surely die without a burial ground. Not only will he die himself, but he will also fall into eternal infamy. The consequences are too severe. He can't afford it at all. Within 2 days, investigate everything. If you can't do it, there's no need for Hulong Mountain Villa to exist. Zhu Houzhao said coldly. Also. Zhu Houzhao squinted his eyes and said, I still want the head of Prince Pingnan. Uncle Huang will personally go and retrieve it for me. Faced with these words. Yes, I respectfully comply with Your Majesty's decree. Upon hearing this, Zhu Wu breathed a long sigh of relief in his heart. Immediately, stand up and bid farewell. Wait until Zhu ignores and leaves. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Zhu Houzhao's mouth. This is Zhu ignoring. This is the iron gallbladder monkey. Even if he is secretly a hero who wants to seize the throne. But as long as Zhu Houzhao is strong enough, then Zhu ignorance can only be a loyal and steadfast iron fearless monkey. Chapter 7. Loyalty and Genuine Iron Gallbladder God Marquis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hulong Mountain Villa. Inside the main hall. Zhu ignored 4 subordinates in front of him, standing with their hands down. Under the command of the Iron Gallbladder God Marquis of Hulong Mountain Manor, there are 4 major spies from heaven and earth, Xianhuang. The 4 parts each have experts, and the most outstanding one should be the leader. The number 1 spy in the sky, Duan Tianya. Calm and composed, with exceptional courage and insight, he was adopted as an adopted son by the Iron Gallbladder God Ho since childhood. After following the Japanese ninjutsu, Phantom Sword, taught by the IGA sect on the Japanese island, he returned and became the leader of the Tianzi No. 1 Secret Talk. The cultivation of martial arts is even more unfathomable. The first number of the land is a sword returning to the sea. Proud and reserved by nature, with a hint of melancholy between the eyebrows and hands. Because his father was killed when he was young and returned to the sea for trials and tribulations, he was determined to seek revenge for his public. The one-handed sword technique is extremely domineering and unparalleled, claiming that killing never requires a second sword. The first number of Xuanzi is Shengguan Haitang, with a quick-witted and stunning appearance. Qin, chess, calligraphy, painting, medical divination, and astrology are all familiar. On weekdays, for the sake of convenience, women dress up as men for travel. Hosting the world's first village, the village is filled with talented people who hold core secrets. There are many talented individuals who possess the secrets of the world. The first yellow character indicates right and wrong. I was originally a gangster in the market, with an outgoing personality, humorous and witty, yet inexperienced with a clever mind. By chance, he obtained the ultimate skill of the unbeaten mischievous child Gu San Tong. The Diamond Immortal Divine Skill. Once it uses the Vajra Immortal skill, its entire body will turn golden, with infinite strength, unaffected by cold and heat, and even more fearless of water and fire, impervious to knives and guns, and fearless of all kinds of poison. Zhu ignored the 4 subordinates and looked at them with serious eyes. He spoke calmly and said, Chao Jingchun was killed by a cat. Do you all know about this? Duan Tianya exclaimed in shock, I didn't expect that Chao Jingchun, who had so much power and strength, would die like this. It's surprising that Ren Mao would become the person of His Majesty, and his strength is also too exaggerated. Haitang and several others also sighed one after another. Not long ago, more detailed intelligence had already arrived from within the palace. The human cat quickly killed Chao Jingchun with just one move. The strength demonstrated by this person is definitely not just that of a great master. And Zhao Gao also directly defected to the human cat. Nowadays, the imperial palace has become the world of humans and cats, or rather the world of Zhu Houzhao. This fact frightened all 4 spies. Too fast. It was almost over when no one reacted. Before Zhu Houzhao ascended the throne, he was ordinary and had no appearance as an emperor. However, now he has demonstrated such thunderous tactics. What surprised them even more was Zhu Houzhao's intelligence. Surprisingly, the intelligence came even more timely and detailed than that of the Dragon Protection Villa. What level has such an intelligence network reached? What a huge power network is hidden behind the emperor. I can't imagine it. How did Zhu Houzhao learn about the secret intelligence of Prince Pingnan's conspiracy to rebel? Is it true that Zhu Houzhao has a terrifying hidden force assisting him? There is also a conversation with the divine monkey, and that kind of imperial technique is definitely not something that a playboy prince can unleash. From the moment Your Majesty ascended the throne, he was no longer the former playboy crown prince. Zhu ignored the emotions and felt extremely emotional. My adoptive father, if there is something that my child is puzzled about, please ask my adoptive father to clarify it. Guihai frowned and asked with a knife. Tell me. The iron gallbladder divine Marquis nodded slightly and said. When Your Majesty was the crown prince, he was a high-profile person, even though he was only 16 years old now. He had just ascended the throne, with a shallow foundation and no influence. In addition, the corrupt party in the court is rampant now. How could this person suddenly become Your Majesty's confidant? Such an easy killing of Chao Jingchun is really hard to see. Returning to the sea, he opened his mouth and asked questions of confusion. This is the brilliance of Your Majesty. Zhu Wu couldn't help but show a hint of frustration on his face when he heard the words of returning to the sea, and said, in Your Majesty's eyes, what is a small Chao Jingchun? What is the East Factory? It's just Your Majesty's dog. If you don't listen, kill it. Once the emperor ascends to the throne, he naturally possesses supreme power. Don't think that Our Majesty is young and easy to deceive. If he is really easy to deceive, being a father won't be as powerful as he is today. It's just that. Many people in the world are short-sighted, only seeing a young emperor, but not knowing that the emperor is the Ming dynasty. The Ming dynasty is the emperor, representing the supremacy. Don't talk about Chao Jingchun, it's just you and me. Your Majesty really wants to take action. Our lives and deaths are just a thought of that person. At this point, Zhu Wu let out a bitter smile and then turned his head to earnestly remind the few people, remember, Your Majesty is Your Majesty, and even at a young age, he is also an emperor, towering above all others and ruling over everyone's fate. All today's questions must not be leaked at all, otherwise once they reach His Majesty's place, don't think the emperor really knows how to kill. Nowadays, when the emperor ascends the throne, his power is not stable. At this time, it is especially important to do a good job, otherwise the second one to perform the surgery may not be who it is. The power of the imperial court is complex, and various forces are in flux. Soon, there will be concubines sent by major imperial dynasties, and the situation will further worsen. If one word is not good, it may be a great disaster. With these words, several secret talks all nodded in agreement and promised that they would never reveal any details. The emperor's affairs are not something that courtiers can freely discuss. Today, Zhu ignored and truly felt the pressure. You could lose your life at any time. Everything is entirely based on that one idea. The saying, accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger, is used to describe his mood to the extreme. However, apart from this matter, what troubles him the most now is the matter of the Prince of Pingnan. The King of Pingnan is not so easy to kill, or rather difficult to kill. He has a large number of followers, some of whom reside in the royal palace and are protected by many experts. It is not easy to kill him. But no matter how difficult it is, Zhu Houzhao's decree has been issued, and he must find a way to kill Prince Pingnan. Whether it's assassination or explicit killing. Prince Pingnan, we must all die. After some contemplation, Zhu ignored the four major secret talks and spoke up. Your Majesty said, let me at Hulong Mountain Villa eradicate the rebellion of the Prince of Pingnan. What do you think of this matter? My adoptive father, there are many experts in the Pingnan Prince's mansion. Even if my adoptive father takes action, even if he can suppress those disciples, it is easy for the Pingnan prince to escape. Shangguan Haitang frowned and said. The first way she thought of upon hearing this was through assassination. But even assassination is not that easy. The defense strength of the royal palace is second only to the imperial palace, and even many obstacles have been set up, which is headache-inducing. My adoptive father, if assassination is not possible, and if my adoptive father openly arranges for the Prince of Pingnan to execute this person, it can be considered a solution. However, this move will inevitably cause a global shock, and the royal family may not spare my adoptive father in the future. Broken Tianya frowned and said. The Prince of Pingnan is a member of the royal family, and any major mistake would be handled by the royal family. This is what conforms to the rules. Now, the Prince of Pingnan has not had breakfast yet, and if he rashly takes action, it can be said that there will be endless troubles ahead. The Emperor's decree is to push Zhu into the pit of fire without regard. Coming openly means carrying the blame. Acting in secret and difficult to kill. At least it takes time for investigation and preparation to ensure everything is safe. My adoptive father, can't we just tell Your Majesty to take some time to prepare, so that we can also come up with a solution? After thinking for a moment, Guihai spoke up. I don't want to, but Your Majesty has issued a decree this time and there is no reason to retract it. We cannot refuse, nor do we have the right to refuse. If this matter is not done well this time, in Your Majesty's view, the existence of our Dragon Protection Villa is no longer necessary. Zhu ignored the words and shook his head. From this intelligence, he has already felt the danger involved. In Zhu Houzhao's eyes, Hulong Mountain Villa is not irreplaceable. Even, His Majesty has his own exclusive intelligence network. Compared to the information channels of Hulong Mountain Villa, it is more excellent. This made him feel a strong sense of crisis. This time killing the King of Pingnan is, on the one hand, a vote on one's own focus. At the same time, it is also proving the value of Hulong Mountain Villa. Once it is not done well, it will inevitably be dissolved. This. Hiss. As soon as these words were spoken, the four spies truly felt the bone-chilling cold and took a deep breath. They learned for the first time what is meant by the supremacy of imperial power and what is meant by an emperor. One word can command the world. With just one word, the iron gallbladder monkey can travel thousands of miles to kill the Prince of Pingnan. No need to say more, let's get started. Zhu ignored this moment and his face became solemn. He couldn't let the hard-earned Dragon Protection Villa disband. This time, King Pingnan must die. Soon. The Hulong Mountain Villa was completely moved. Even 33,000 were moved by it. Zhu ignored that this time he was truly putting in all his strength to make a move. He wanted to prove it to the world and also to the Emperor. He is still a loyal Iron Gallbladder God Marquis, which is a character setting and also an explanation for Zhu Houzhao. At the same time, he also sent someone to secretly investigate why Zhu Houzhao had such a change. Chapter 8. In the future, there will be no great Qin Zhao Gao, only great. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Just when the operation of Hulong Mountain Villa began. The news of Cao Jingchuan's death also spread throughout the entire capital at this moment. For a moment, all forces were shaken by it. Many ministers in the court were both surprised and delighted. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, Cao Jingchun, who was in power, had already returned to the west. However, few people know what humans and cats say. But I was just surprised that the human cat dared to do so. Who gave him the courage? Who gave him confidence? At the same time, in the Sinang Palace, a wind with carved dragons and painted phoenixes collapsed, and a woman wearing a red phoenix robe sat upright with her front facing up. This woman has bright eyes and white teeth, and a phoenix head and a moth eyebrow. A head of green hair is like a cloud of hair. Her appearance is cold and elegant, with a plump figure. Although she has passed her prime year, it is vaguely evident that when she was young, she was definitely a great beauty. Let people only observe from a distance and dare not blaspheme. A pair of phoenix eyes open and close, giving people a great sense of oppression. Empress Dowager Zhang. Zhu Houzhao's biological mother. As the Empress Dowager, she was also the first to receive the news of Chao Jingquan's murder. A small eunuch-in-chief, who gave him so much courage. Empress Dowager Zhang has a beautiful and cold face, with a murderous intent in her eyes. In the palace, the human cat is just a eunuch-in-chief. But without the permission of any superiors, he killed the East Factory Governor Chao Jingquan without authorization. What a big coward. What is he doing? Does a eunuch also want to conspire to seize the throne? Ren Mao, does he still have the Empress Dowager himself in his eyes, and the Emperor Zhu Houzhao? Do you want to monopolize the power of the inner court? Where can I still get this? She cannot tolerate this matter. Originally, Zhu Houzhao took office and she was very happy. After all, he is his own son. But now, this cat-like thing has made Empress Dowager Zhang feel a strong crisis. It is obvious that humans and cats want to monopolize power and be those 9,000 years old. Thinking of this, Empress Dowager Zhang quickly calmed down and looked at the old eunuch beside her with a pair of eyes, saying, "Immediately bring over the AI family Xianzhu Yuyan and let her bring everyone from the Demon Gate." She would never allow a eunuch to suppress imperial power in the inner court. Yes, Empress Dowager. Upon hearing this, the eunuch quickly agreed, not daring to delay at all, and went out to do something. On the other side, the heart-nourishing hall. At this moment, the human cat was kneeling in front of Zhu Houzhao with Zhao Gao and the members of the Quicksand organization, and said, "Your Majesty, I have brought you. See Your Majesty." Zhao Gao lowered his head, and the cold sweat on his forehead involuntarily lingered. Wei Zhuang, Zhang Liang, Znv, Yan Lingji, and others knelt on the ground trembling, afraid to take a breath. Indeed, they have decided to seek refuge with Zhu Houzhao. And the cat also said, "Your Majesty is generous, as long as you are sincere, it won't be a big deal." But when I entered this nourishing heart hall, my mood suddenly became particularly nervous and uneasy. After all, Chao Jingquan's precedent is ahead, and they dare not be reckless. I was afraid that I might accidentally offend Zhu Houzhao, and they would all be pulled out and beheaded one by one. More importantly, Zhu Houzhao's changed momentum surprised Zhao Gao and the others greatly. That was not the dandy prince they had seen before, but a true king, a qualified emperor, with a strong sense of domineering in every move. The pressure it brings them is also particularly great. Zhu Houzhao nodded lightly and waved his hand casually at the cat. The cat understood and immediately walked out. Then he stood on one side of the palace, his eyes sharp like knives, like a loyal defender. Once any situation occurs, he will take action immediately. At this moment, Zhu Houzhao's gaze also turned to Zhao Gao and the members of the Quicksand organization. He spoke indifferently and said, "Zhao Gao, I know you are from the Great Qin, but I don't mind or care about these things. I only look at whether this person has value and not whether they are loyal." This statement made Zhao Gao's face turn pale. But he immediately understood what Zhu Houzhao meant. One word reveals your identity, and one move is a deadly move, blocking all your avenues. This also made Zhao Gao's heart tremble even more. The meaning of Zhu Houzhao is already very clear. Useful. Can live. No use. Then die. Obviously, he was asked to make a choice. Is it a show of loyalty to serve Daming from now on? I would rather die than surrender, insisting on continuing to work for the Qin, and later being pulled out and beheaded. He smiled bitterly in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. Not obeying is a dead end. He doesn't want to die. For him, submitting to an emperor like Zhu Houzhao, as the head of the imperial court, is not a shameful thing. He can submit to the king of Qin, and naturally he can also submit to Zhu Houzhao. At this moment, he nodded at Zhu Houzhao and said, Your Majesty, Zhao Gao is willing to do things for Your Majesty, be a useful person, and become a weapon in Your Majesty's hands. Zhu Houzhao nodded slightly and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, saying, You are very knowledgeable about current affairs. I agree. From now on, you will assist Ren Mao in his work, but you will still be an undercover agent of the Qin. Do your original job well, and you should be clear on how to do it. When Zhao Gao uttered this sentence, all his escape routes were completely blocked. This is the purpose of Zhu Houzhao. King Yingzheng of Qin had a domineering personality, which meant that he could not tolerate traitors in his heart. Once Zhao Gao joins the Ming dynasty, it means that Zhao Gao has no possibility of betrayal. Except for Zhu Houzhao, no one dares to take Zhao Gao in. Although Zhu Houzhao said loyalty was not necessary, he could leave Zhao Gao with no choice but to serve himself. So, isn't that the greatest loyalty? A person who has betrayed like this once is also a sharp weapon when used well. Especially when dealing with the Qin state, they will only be more ruthless and attentive. Now that Zhao Gao has been subdued, the intelligence of the Qin will continue to flow, becoming a double-sided undercover agent. The information reported to Daqin will be what Zhu Houzhao wants Daqin to know. The core information from the Daqin side will be presented to Zhu Houzhao in the most authentic way. Chapter 9. Empress Dowager Zhang. It is time for Your Majesty to establish a queen. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. Rest assured, I understand. Zhao Gao's face lit up with joy, and he quickly thanked him. It wasn't until this moment that he realized his life had been saved. A kind of joy of surviving the disaster made him feel that living is truly beautiful. As for betraying the great Qin, it doesn't matter anymore. In the Ming dynasty, even King Yingzheng of Qin had no way to deal with himself. Besides, his current identity has not been exposed yet. Zhu Houzhao nodded slightly, and his expression regained composure. This time, he turned his gaze to the members of the Quicksand organization and did not rush to speak, as if he was lost in thought. He didn't feel anything unexpected about the appearance of the Quicksand organization. In the world of martial arts, all changes can no longer be inferred from the original plot, everything is possible. On the contrary, it is the role of these people, using them well can make his subordinates have a very good available power in multiple places. Whether it's Wei Zhuang, Zhang Liang, Purple Maiden Flame Spirit Ji, and others, their strength is good. Not bad, not bad. The downside is that you have to charge money. Is he capable of collecting money? If you still do something, you have to pay for it. Zhu Houzhao wouldn't do this kind of business. Thinking of this, his gaze swept over these people and finally stayed on Yan Lingji. This person was originally from Baiyue. But now he was mixed up with the Quicksand organization, which made him find it very interesting. He immediately spoke lightly and said, Flame Spirit Ji, how is the situation in Daqin now? Yan Lingji was taken aback for a moment. She didn't expect that Zhu Houzhao would be the first to ask herself, not Wei Zhuang. After calming down, he replied, Your Majesty, the present-day Great Qin has completely completed its unification and hegemony. The first emperor, Yingzheng, is as imposing as the scorching sun. All kinds of monsters have been cleaned up, including the 6-nation group and the 100 schools of thought, all of which have fled to various countries in order to survive. As a result, we are unable to stay in the state of Qin for a long time. We have long heard that Daming is located in the center of Kyushu and occupies the air circulation, so I came to Daming with quicksand. I see. Upon hearing this, Zhu Houzhao also gained an understanding of the specific promotion efforts of the Qin state. Just as he was about to continue asking some questions, he suddenly heard a sharp voice outside the main hall. The Empress Dowager is here. As the words fell, Empress Dowager Zhang hurriedly stepped into the main hall. Apart from Yin Ho Zhu Yuyen, all the palace maids were shielded outside the palace gate by her. Emperor. Empress Dowager Zhang was very anxious and immediately approached Zhu Houzhao to see if he had anything to do. Just as I was about to say something, I suddenly noticed a respectful cat standing on the side. On the ground, Zhao Gao and Lu Sha knelt down to organize the crowd. Now, Empress Dowager Zhang was stunned. What is the situation? Isn't it that humans and cats want to monopolize power? This posture is not right. How come it looks more and more like Zhu Houzhao's confidant? This attitude cannot be pretended. This made Empress Dowager Zhang's words, which were originally full of food, be suppressed. She was supposed to hold Zhu Houzhao accountable and then use her own power to support him, but unexpectedly, she caused a big upset. On the side, Yin Ho looked at the crowd in the hall with a pair of eyes, also secretly shocked. Good guy. I thought the emperor was going to be controlled, but now it seems that it's completely unfounded. It's still coming in the opposite direction. Mother, why did you come? Zhu Houzhao looked at Empress Dowager Zhang with a puzzled expression on his face, but he still stepped forward to support her and asked. Empress Dowager Zhang is his biological mother in this world, and the mother-son relationship is very good. Since childhood, Zhu Houzhao has been particularly spoiled, and compared to other princes, he is much luckier. Therefore, even as a traveler, he has always had great respect and love for this mother. Of course. As a smart person, Zhu Houzhao could not help but feel a warmth in his heart as he saw Zhang Tai's later goals at a glance. This mother, thinking that her son's power had been deprived, came to support her. Huang'er, as long as you're okay. Empress Dowager Zhang's tone softened slightly, and she didn't know what to say for a moment. Mother's heart, the child understands that everything is fine. Mother, please speak to the inner hall. Zhu Houzhao smiled, and now he doesn't care about people like Lu Sha anymore. Pulling Empress Dowager Zhang to the inner hall for a conversation. Okay. Okay. Empress Dowager Zhang was very happy, and her previously angry mood over this matter had improved significantly. After arriving at the inner hall, Empress Dowager Zhang began to ask about the human cat. After Zhu Houzhao's brief explanation, she realized that she had really misunderstood. At the same time, I am extremely happy that my son can quickly grow into a true emperor. She doesn't have much thought for Zhu Houzhao, as long as the position of the emperor is her own son. As long as her son is not a puppet, she doesn't care about anything. This is just Empress Zhang, a mother who doesn't have much thought. She doesn't care about the rest and doesn't ask much. She believed that Zhu Houzhao was already a qualified emperor who could handle everything well. Next, after chatting with Empress Dowager Zhang for a while, Zhu Houzhao happily escorted her out of the heart-nourishing hall. However, when Empress Dowager Zhang left, she also told him some things. That is to hold a court meeting in a few days, and various countries will offer beautiful women. At that time, as an emperor, one needs to appoint a queen and also some concubines. This is a big deal. It is important for the emperor to ascend the throne and establish an empress. Generally speaking, the crown prince has already decided on a candidate. Just because Zhu Houzhao was young before, although he was also planning this matter, he was not very urgent. Now, as the emperor, this matter cannot be delayed. The foundation of the country is to establish a queen and give birth to a dragon seed as soon as possible, in order to stabilize the hearts of the court. At the same time, this is also a major matter of marriage, involving various countries. In this regard, Empress Dowager Zhang's suggestion is to let Wanwan become the queen. After all, it's convenient for her to rest assured. Zhu Houzhao did not refute this, but only told Empress Dowager Zhang that she would handle everything well. Regarding the first marriage alliance, Zhu Houzhao has already had his own ideas. Chapter 10. The roots of the Ming are rotten. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Empress Dowager Zhang left, Zhu Houzhao returned to the outer hall. The previous incident had not yet ended, and his gaze was once again focused on Zhao Gao and others. At the same time, his eyes were the first to look at the cat, and his tone was extremely indifferent as he said, although Chao Jingchun has died, his followers are still alive. I give you 1 day, and you and Zhao Gao will catch and kill these followers together. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was deeply moved and couldn't help but shiver in their hearts. Hush! Do you want to kill as you please? How many people do we need to kill? At this moment, they deeply realized what imperial power is. What is domineering? Back then, when Chao Jingchun was still alive, what a magnificent sight the East Factory was. How reckless is it? Regardless of whether it is the inner court or the outer court, no one is allowed to give in when they meet. Not to mention ordinary officials, I'm afraid they may not be so humble as to lick Chao Jingchun's boots. Even those clear currents cannot compete with them, they can only avoid their sharpness. These people, now with the emperor's words, will be executed. How terrifying this is! Is this imperial power? Extremely domineering, overbearing, without any reason or excuse. Once someone tries to do something that shouldn't be done, be prepared to be cut in half. Respectfully abide by Your Majesty's decree. The cat nodded and said. At this moment, Zhao Gao seemed to have found an opportunity and immediately stood up in a deep voice, saying, Your Majesty, as far as I know, Chao Jingchun's followers are not only eunuchs, but also many people from the court. How should these people be dealt with? As an old rival of Chao Jingchun, Zhao Gao has a deep understanding of his power. Even he himself had a lot of evidence of Chao Jingchun's corruption and collusion with court officials. In the past, these things could not be easily exposed. After all, his own butt is not clean either. Unfortunately, Chao Jingchun also holds some of his own tricks. Once exposed, one's own situation will not be better. It will only cause a situation where both parties are injured. Because of this, the two have been fighting for many years, but neither can help the other and have been in a stalemate. Now, it's different. Chao Jingchun has already died, and he has also defected to Zhu Houzhao. All the evidence he possesses can be extracted, and all the party members who have connections with Chao Jingchun can be captured and imprisoned. The court. Zhu Houzhao squinted his eyes slightly, realizing that Zhao Gao had something to say. He looked at Zhao Gao with a pair of eyes full of dim light, but didn't speak, just staring at him. Zhao Gao's scalp tingled at the sight of this, and he dared not play tricks. He quickly said, Your Majesty, I have a large amount of evidence and list of Chao Jingchun's collusion and personal gain in my hands. Many of them were officials bribing Chao Jingchun to seek promotion, so Chao Jingchun received a large amount of money. Your Majesty, Chao Jingchun was so powerful before that I dare not take him out. Speaking of this, Zhao Gao's face was a bit awkward, and he suddenly thought of His Majesty's prowess. Immediately, his heart trembled and he dared not deceive. He candidly said, Your Majesty, I am afraid that he will grasp the secret of my servant, so I am. All right, I don't want to hear such nonsense from you. Immediately order someone to retrieve the list and evidence. Zhu Houzhao snorted coldly, he was too lazy to listen to this guy's nonsense anymore. However, this guy is quite sensible. If you dare to tell a lie just now, even if you don't kill him yourself, you will have to beat him hard. Faced with such subordinates, one must use both grace and authority. If you're not honest, you'll have to fight hard. Yes, yes. Zhao Gao quickly responded, although his face was awkward, his heart was filled with joy. Sure enough, I did it right. Zhu Houzhao didn't listen anymore, that's a good thing. Although it's not worth completely ignoring, there shouldn't be any major issues at all. After finishing speaking, he quickly ordered a close leader, explained a few words, and then left the main hall under the guard of a secret guard. In an instant, the intelligence was obtained. Zhao Gao quickly submitted the intelligence upon receiving it. A pile of envelopes were placed on the imperial table. Zhu Houzhao frowned slightly and then picked up a letter to read. As a result, it doesn't matter at first glance, but the more you look, the more angry you become. Finally, Long Yan was furious and threw the intelligence to the ground, his tone becoming extremely cold. He said, "All right. All right. A second. Class high-ranking official in the imperial court, he's actually hanging out with a eunuch, buying and selling official positions. What a big coward. Zhu Houzhao is really angry. Although he had long thought that he would connect with many people, after all, the current form of the Ming dynasty is already very chaotic. The court and various political parties were involved in power struggles, and even many imperial dynasties were involved. But I didn't expect so many people to collude with even the second-grade staff. Has Ming been corroded to such an extent? If this momentum is allowed to continue, there may be no need for other dynasties to attack the Ming dynasty, and the Ming dynasty itself will have to collapse first. Absolutely. How unreasonable. At this moment. Although Chao Jingchun has already killed him. However, during his reign, although his momentum was not as strong as his previous 9,000 years, it was still about the same. These officials in the court were promoted by buying and selling official positions. Can the money sent out be lost like this? These officials who suffered losses must be replenished from elsewhere. Don't think it's all layers of exploitation, big officials exploiting small officials exploiting the people. So, how can Ming remain calm? It's disgusting. Corruption. This is already the biggest problem that the people have to face, and they cannot ignore it. Even the biggest problem in the history of the 9,000-year-old period of the Ming dynasty was that during the Qin dynasty, all officials were unconscious. Zhu Houzhao cannot tolerate this, these are all pests of the Ming dynasty. However, to Zhu Houzhao's surprise, Pei Zhu and Yan Song were not on this list. But Zhu Houzhao quickly thought of it. Or rather, they don't need to indulge in rampant corruption, what they truly care about is power. Forming a party and taking power is their goal. Especially for people like Changsun Wuji, who are backed by the Tang dynasty and only need to be undercover and in power. Just preparing for the Tang dynasty's future conquest of the Ming dynasty. For these people, Zhu Houzhao is not in a hurry to take action against them at this moment. But Chao Jingchun's people are bound to be killed. Only in this way can they settle down. The emperor is angry. Crouching corpses for 1,000,000. Faced with Zhu Houzhao's anger, both Zhao Gao and the members of the Quicksand organization lowered their heads and dared not look, fearing that the emperor would vent their anger. They can almost imagine that the next court will inevitably face a major earthquake. I don't know how many people will get their heads chopped off because of this. Blood flows into a river. It's already unavoidable. It's not enough to offset Zhu Houzhao's anger. Otherwise, Ming would have to be expelled from the imperial team. Ren Mao, Zhao Gao, you two should work together to investigate this matter. No matter how high your official rank is, as long as there is any entanglement with this matter, I will arrest it first and then investigate according to law. Remember, it's the person who was implicated in the Chao Jingchun incident. Zhu Houzhao's gaze became extremely cold, and he commanded the two of them. The showdown called knocking on the mountain and shaking the tiger, if not for this, is afraid of killing too many and affecting the operation of the court. He wished he could order a thorough investigation of all officials at this moment. All problematic court officials must be imprisoned. Never tolerate it. But even if only a part is captured, the number of officials involved this time still makes him, the emperor, feel shocking. If these people continue to do this, Ming will really go bankrupt. Yes, Your Majesty, I will definitely investigate with all my heart. Zhao Gao said with a serious expression. The human cat nodded heavily. As they spoke, they were ready to stand up and leave. At this moment, Zhu Houzhao suddenly remembered something and stopped Zhao Gao. He squinted his eyes and said coldly, "And you know the situation in your hands the best. You throw out some of it yourself, and you have wealth. You turn it over to the national treasury yourself, don't think I'm blind." Since he wants to punish corruption, he is not only targeting Chao Jingchen alone, but to completely uproot the entire eunuch party and thoroughly clean up the issue of the inner court. Especially Zhao Gao, Zhu Houzhao wants to let Zhao Gao know that he can only rely on the emperor. Throw what forces in your hands should be thrown, hand in what should be handed in. As long as there is a bit of privacy, this person should also go to accompany Chao Jingchen, so as not to make Chao Jingchen lonely on the road. Yes, Your Majesty, I will definitely do well and never disappoint Your Majesty. Upon hearing these words, Zhao Gao, who had just stood up, almost sat down on the ground, scared and sweating profusely. He quickly exclaimed. Meanwhile, he has secretly made up his mind. After returning, we must vigorously rectify it, even if it is painful, we must also rectify it. Even if it causes a great loss of vitality, we will not hesitate. Especially with regards to wealth, he has planned to contribute 90% and use the remaining as organizational funds. So, the emperor should be satisfied. Go ahead. Zhu Houzhao sat on the dragon chair, closed his eyes, unwilling to speak any more. Your Majesty, we are leaving. Everyone paid their respects in unison and left the main hall one after another. And just after they left completely, Zhu Houzhao finally stepped forward and looked at his own system.